Uh, we here with it. Mic check 1 2. Mic check. Yeah. We got Rich the Poet on today. Watching. Appreciate you being here. We here with it, yeah, I mean. Yeah. 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 Uh, uh, uh. Oh, he's here. He's here. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at, Zay? Where you at, Zay? Where you at? I'm shining and like glistening. This is wonderful. Oh my gosh, skincare.
Hello?
Yo, is that Risk?
Yo.
What it do? What it? Listen, finally, we here with it. Finally.
We here with it, big bro.
Listen, we're recording, all right? It says recording. I am looking at it. We are here. How are you, Risk? What it do? How are you, brother?
I'm good, bro. I'm really good. Quick question. Are you gonna be able to are you gonna like edit? Are you able to edit this before you upload it?
Edit?
No, not like a whole bunch, but like cut out like the
I don't have like software to do that. So like, just don't wild out. That's because if some do slip, it's but like I'm gonna have to take out like too much. But
all right, for sure.
So
am I good where I'm at, or should I be closer?
Probably like come a little closer. Come like a little bit closer to it.
Oh shit, I gotta get in a different chair. Oof.
Listen, y'all. These are pre-production problems, y'all. Okay, sometimes pre-pro don't always get situated in pre-pro. It's okay.
Yeah. How about? Sorry, dude.
Much better. All good. Much better. Yo, welcome to Mic Check Risk. For those y'all who don't know who Risk the Poet is, he is first off like a brother to me. Is his fam all the way. Risk is an author, a poet, a spoken word artist as well, a writer,
all of that,
as well as the WBL Grand Slam champion for 2019. He was my arch nemesis, like a good little bit. But eventually, I grew to love him. Yeah, Zay. So what you been up to, man? Let's start there. What have you been up to?
Not much, bro. I just been chilling. You know, grateful to wake up every day. You know.
Absolutely.
It's a blessing, low key.
For sure. So I want to ask you before we get into the whole spiel. I gotta ask you, right? With so much that's happening in the world, right? And it's easy to find reasons. It's easy to become depressed, to become saddened, to be really overwhelmed in a state where everything is overwhelming. I want to ask you, what is your favorite thing about being Black? Because I feel like times like this, you need something uplifting. What is your favorite thing about being Black?
My favorite thing about being Black,
yes, is
I can wake up, look at myself in the mirror, and just be like, this is one good looking man. You know, hey, everybody can't do that. Everybody can't do that. I feel like Black people are the only people who can just wake up and just be like, I'm gorgeous, bro. I don't got to do nothing. You know.
Absolutely.
What Beyonce say? I woke up like this. Flawless.
Listen, the melanin, it just came with the deal. You know what I mean? The skin just came with the deal.
We don't even look old. You ever seen a Black person age?
We age like we just drink from the fountain of youth and all of the juices that we drink. The fountain of youth and everything. You seen Pharrell? Pharrell like 100 years old. Look
Right.
20.
Right. Pharrell been kicking it with he was kicking it with Betty White, you know.
Now, I mean, he might have been with Frederick Douglass for all we know. We don't know.
He might have been. I think he might have been in class with Adam and Eve. You never know, bro.
Now, I guarantee you, he got a pool full of the Lazarus Pit, just chilling, just chilling in the crib, just chilling. So I mentioned earlier about how, like you say, you're an author, you're a writer, you do poetry, you do this poet thing.
I do be doing poetry though.
For real, it's like I met you through the whole WBL scene, right? We were on a team for BNV. For those of y'all who don't know who BNV is, Brave New Voices. It's like one of the biggest, if not the biggest, poetry festival in the entire world. We represent the DMV team. When we went last year, it was amazing. First time going. So I want to ask you, because I was with you, but I might have a different take on my experience might be different than yours. What was your experience like going to BNV?
My experience with BNV, I loved it. I loved every.
Oh, I know
every
you did. I know you did. I know you did.
Anyway, yeah, BNV was great. The energy at BNV is beautiful. I love it so much. Everyone is so supportive. It gets to the point of being kind of like overly supportive, but
how you overly supportive?
How overly so? I mean, like every time you stepped outside, the dorms, because we were staying on the college campus,
right?
As you know, every time you stepped out into the dorm and you saw another team, they'd always be screaming at you, like, "Go off, sis!" Yeah, like
I'm just trying to get that, bro. I'm just trying to get breakfast, bro. Relax.
Right, bro. Like, come on, bro. I just want my bacon and eggs right now, bro. I thank you. I thank you for calling me gorgeous. That's like the third time today. Let me get my coffee real quick. All right, I'm gonna talk to you later.
Exactly. But nah, I definitely a BNV. It was the support was definitely dope, but also it came almost like it was a trauma fest at one point. It's just because a lot of poems, and again, everyone's speaking the truth, but it's like at some point it's like nothing is like happy in nobody's life at all. Like nothing.
Right. Yeah. It's a part of slam culture has the tendency to get really toxic. Coaches will tell a poet to do a piece just because it scores highly, even though the piece might be fresh. It might open up those wounds. It might have recently just happened, or it might have happened years ago and you're still not over it.
Right.
But as long as it's scoring highly, to win and to place, to get to final stage, coaches are just going to tell you, yep, go out there and cry for about 3 minutes and 30 seconds and get these scores up,
One thing I loved about our team is shout out to our coaches, Patrick Black Picasso Washington and
yes.
Paige wasn't having none of that.
Paige's Patrick. Yeah, no. He was
Paige
not.
That's one thing I wholeheartily appreciate is Paige is all about pulling the truth out of you, but only what you are ready to reveal. And not getting up there just to do quote unquote trauma porn. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
That's you saw a lot of that, and a lot of it was indeed people like who were actually speaking the truth, and that's great. But you have, like you said, a lot of them who were only doing it because their coaches were pressuring them to do it, to pretty much rip the Band-Aid off the wound and see who can bleed out the slowest on stage, because that's what was going on. But since we're on the topic of poetry, how did you get your start in poetry? Where did it start for you?
So poetry kind of started for me. Actually writing poetry started for me around the time Donald Trump was elected in the presidency. Okay. Our school gave us a lot of things to do to voice our opinions and our frustrations when he got elected, as opposed to doing walkouts and sit-ins and being outside of the school, outside of their supervision, which was, I get it, but also if you want to go out and do activism, you should, let us do that more freely. People were allowed to leave, but it was really, we were really told not to leave. Mm-hmm. It was kind of, they wanted to persuade us to stay in, and instead of like going out and voicing what we had to voice, because we did all of that stuff in the school, but what's the point? I see these people every day. I know what they think.
Right.
I know that they're upset.
Right.
I want to go out and see that, But anyway, to answer your question, I went to a kind of open mic for it. They told us we could just get up on the stage and just say whatever we wanted, off the top of our head, or we could get a written and just say what we needed to say. So I did a poem that is lost by now. I have no idea where that poem is at all.
It'd be like that.
Yeah. But that was just my introduction into it. One of the English teachers actually was leading like a poetry team. We went and did Louder Than a Bomb. We competed at Louder Than a Bomb, which is a kind of team poetry thing, like how Brave New Voices was.
Right.
So that's what got me started into poetry.
Since starting poetry, poetry has different impacts on everyone. For some people, it's just a form of expression, right? For some people, it's literally a way to pay bills.
Right.
For you, since starting to write your thoughts out and get them out there, how has that changed you? How has that changed your whole outlook on how you look at life?
I definitely use poetry as a way to understand how I look at life. I can think about a lot of things, but just my thoughts aren't enough to really describe how I'm feeling in the moment or how I'm feeling about a certain topic. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I have to get a little creative with the words. I have to get a little, have to put some color into it, to really nail what I'm trying to say, to really describe what I'm feeling right now, mm-hmm. and what I want to do about a certain situation.
I like using the word color. It's just like you're taking a situation that from plain view could be looked at as black and white, and then those words that you give to it to speak to that situation, that's the color to
right.
really make you realize the picture and see the different details and piece all together. So I think that's exactly. A way to describe it. Poetry gives you color to life, allows you to really color things in. One of the poems that's really significant that me and you co-wrote.
Co-wrote. Okay. Same side, yeah.
For those of y'all, you go on my page or YouTube. Same side is there, but it's a duo piece between me and Risk, and pretty much it was highlighting the two people who are a part of the Black community who come from different spectrums. So you got one who grew up more in a suburban life, one who grew up more in a surrounding the hood life, and how at the end of the day, America will still see them as the same person. That person is a threat. That person is someone who is not valued of life. So today I want to ask you, that poem, Same Side, what did that mean for you? How did that personally impact you?
Um, it it really illustrates how you could be from two different worlds,
Mm-hmm.
two completely different backgrounds, two completely different cities, families, countries, whatever. But as long as you have melanin, as long as you're black, you're still going to be looked at as black. We're still on the same side, you know.
Right.
Even me, you know, you're a little darker than I am. I look like Michael Jackson's illegitimate son. Yeah, but we're still black, you know. We're still affected by the same issues. We're still looked at the same by other races.
For sure.
It's mostly the only people we've had to convince that we're darker skinned people and lighter skinned people on the same side is darker skinned people and lighter skinned people. Those are the only people who need to be reminded of that, because we're looked at as the same by every other race.
For sure. It's like that poem is especially relevant today because this war that's going on outside, right? It's not just against dark-skinned people. It's not just against light-skinned people. It's not just against brown skin or anywhere in between those three. It's against black people as a whole. Now, where you look at each complexion, you know, you got the light skin privilege, you have dark skins not having as much representation or the automatic masculinization of it. There's different problems within each one, but overall, the attack is on black people as a whole. So it's like that poem, while it does identify, is also somewhat like if you think about it, a wake-up call, like, yo, we're two sides of the same coin.
Right.
The two sides of the same coin, a coin that's being, you know, spent and not cared for and devalued either way, a coin that isn't valued. Two sides of the same coin and the coin still devalued. So either way you look at it, it's no reason to fight amongst each other when we're still fighting them. Like we gotta take care of family problems and not to say that family problems justify the war that's going on against us, but it is to say if we're cleaning everything up, then we gotta clean everything up at every single thing.
Right.
So I want another thing, since we're on the topic of poetry again, I want to ask you, what are some of the key features you feel like a good poem has? From the poems you've experienced, you wrote, what are some of the key things each good poem has to you?
I would say the two biggest things that a good poem has is, one, authenticity. If what you're saying is not authentic, if it's not an example of you as a person, you don't have to explicitly have gone through what you're speaking about. But if you don't know what you're talking about, your poem's is not gonna come across how you want it to come across. You're not gonna be able to give it the same love and the same attention as you would a poem that you're actually passionate about, a poem that you actually really want to put out. And if there's a poem you have and you have no idea what you're talking about in it, but it still sounds like a really good poem, probably plagiarize that poem. You know, it's no, you won't be able to do it. You can usually tell when someone's not being authentic. You know, The second thing I would say makes a good poem would be delivery. How you're saying what you want to say, you know, because you could really say whatever in a poem, you know, as long as you have something behind it. Again, you know, as long as you have some emotion to it, something that makes it different than just you having a conversation. You know, you can't, if you're trying to elicit a certain emotion, like if you're trying to elicit anger with a poem, you can't just, you know, just do your poem like this, you know, real, like Michael Jackson in his interviews. You can't do that.
You know, no hee-hees on stage. No hee-hees on stage.
No hee-hees on stage. But if you're actually passionate about something, you actually have someone you want to talk to, you have to pull it out of you. If you want them to be angry, you have to say it in a way that elicits that emotion. If you want them to be sad, you have to say it in a way that elicits that emotion. You know, and like I said, you can say anything on the poem as long as you're being authentic about it and saying it like you mean it. Like if there's a black cat in a hat, you know, with a backpack down the street,
bars,
right? You know, if there is a black cat, you know, with a hat and a backpack down the street, as long as you say it like you mean it, you know, that's a 10, right? That's a 10 right there. As long as you're being authentic about it and saying it like you're confident in what you have to say, you could turn anything into a good poem. Some poems are saved wholeheartedly by delivery. Yes. As far as slamming and reading poetry, delivery can turn a whack poem into a masterpiece. You know, I've seen some whack poems, like some whack poems when I read them.
Any at BAV?
Huh?
Any at BAV?
We're not gonna talk about that. We're not. Some of them are my friends. We're not gonna talk.
Nah, you gotta call your friends out. Let them know they trash sometimes. It's okay to tell your friends.
We're not gonna do that right now.
You can tell your friends, hey, I love you. You my mans. You my girl. We cool. But this is trash. It's okay. You gotta normalize telling friends they're trash.
I'm just saying, I don't want to do it on the interview. You know, I don't want to be that guy.
All right, got you.
You feel me?
Got you.
But yeah. Some people's delivery have really saved a poem. There are times where I wrote a whack poem, but the way I said it, you know, saved it. Right. You know, because I meant what I said and I lived through what I said. You know, so the two key elements. Authenticity and delivery.
I like that. I especially like the delivery part because to me, that whole delivery is what separates the poets from spoken word artists. On the fly, right. I put you're a spoken word artist. Today, when I introduce you, you're a poet, spoken word artist. Because to me, poets that's just writing. That's just putting it on paper and that's it. Spoken word, literally speaking. So when you're speaking, you got to come with that impact, however that case may be. And it doesn't always mean being energetic or all over the stage, but being intentional and matching the feeling of the poem, conveying that to the best, however that best may be. So I definitely rock with you on that. Speaking of, let me go ahead and get this. Speaking of poetry, right?
Oh, what you got?
You know, I got it.
Don't do it to him. Don't do it to him.
Right here.
He pulled out the literature.
Listen, gotta stay literate, okay? Gotta stay literate.
Gotta stay literate.
Everyone, right? What I have in my hand here is Neverland Lost by yours truly, Risk the Poet, right here. Zay, I might call him Zay because his name is Xavier. So I
yeah.
Zay, I want you to talk about the title right here. What does Neverland Lost mean? Where did that title come from?
So Neverland Lost. When I made the book, when I actually put all the poems together and designed the cover, when I did all that, I was in my first semester of college. I was entering a new stage in my life. I was becoming more of an adult. I had more responsibilities. I was independent. I was leaving the part of me that was really depending on my family behind. I was leaving behind my childhood. And if you've seen the movie Peter Pan, and if you read the book, you know that Neverland is the place where they go, where they stay young forever.
Right.
Thank you. Is that they go there and they never grow up.
Mm-hmm.
But real life isn't like that. You have to leave behind who you are eventually. You have to grow and adapt and become an adult. So the point of it being called Neverland Lost is that this is me embracing the childhood that I had, mm-hmm. and leaving it behind. Now I think everyone has a little bit of childhood of a child in them, mm-hmm. but for the most part, you have to grow up eventually. And I didn't make any of those poems for the sake of, I'm making a book.
Right.
I just had a bunch of poems and I looked at, how do these connect? What are these? And the poems are either descriptions of myself now and as a child, experiences I had, lessons that I learned, and just things I would do to pass the time while I was still young. I'm not gonna say I'm not young. I'm only 19, but while I was still an impressionable young lad.
Young lad. I love what you got right here. Because y'all, I got a signed copy. Because I'm special. I got a signed copy. It says, "Risk, my brother for life, much love, MC. Always embrace your Neverland." So to me, that says, don't forget to have fun at some point.
Right.
Don't forget to let that inner child loose. Because like we see today, there's so much going on that you might just lose your Neverland in all of this. So it's good to at some point let that inner child loose. And I love the book. I love the signing here. I want you to talk about your favorite pieces as well as your most difficult piece that's inside this book here.
So my favorite piece and a lot of people's favorite piece in the book is called Insanity, which is a bit of a heartbreak poem. I was a little sad boy. I was listening to Take Care by Drake for a week. Marvin's Room on replay all day, every day.
Marvin's Room.
But it has a lot of my favorite lines that I've came up with, mm-hmm. in the piece. I love a lot of the imagery that I used, a lot of the metaphors and similes that I had in there. Not to toot my own horn, but toot.
Okay, flex, King. Go ahead and flex.
Yeah.
Flex on him.
Yeah, flex on him a little bit. But yeah, that poem, you've asked me this question before, and I only said Insanity. But also, I love the titular poem, mm-hmm. Neverland Lost. I'm not going to spoil that. I'm not going to spoil that poem.
Okay.
But that was a poem. While I wrote it, kind of made me grow up a little bit. Kind of made me understand my emotions, and made me understand who I was, where I was at mentally and emotionally, and what I had seen and heard, and the stories of kids who had to grow up too fast, or didn't get the chance to grow up at all. So, and to answer your other question, that was I left Neverland Lost out of your other question as well. This is also another one of the poems that was kind of hard for me to write.
Okay.
It was kind of draining for me to write that poem. It was draining to write Insanity as well. Insanity flowed, those two poems, I think because the emotion was so raw, you know, at the time, that they flowed for me easily. They were still difficult for me to kind of get through because, you know, on one hand I was a sad boy. On the other hand, I was using my journal for therapy, I'll say, because I can't afford a doctor. But yeah, so those two were the hardest, I want to say, emotionally. But actual crafting of the poem, I would say the American flag speaks to the black boy was, yeah, he was, and you were there in during the construction
practices,
editing process of that poem. Yeah, that was for the practices, the redrafts, the edits, the comments, the tears because they were my poem being torn apart, like pages.
I love that. It's all I love. It's all I love.
Every time I hear the word page, I shiver. I'm kidding. Much love to Pages.
Love Pages. Love you, Pages.
Love you, dude. But yeah, that was kind of the hardest poem for me to craft. Actually, Pages edited. He didn't edit, but he gave feedback for Insanity. So I have to thank Pages for making Insanity what it was. Yeah, much love to him.
I like that. I like how with such first of all, I love the entire book. If I haven't said that already, I love the entire book. But I also love how you touched on how you had to go back, you had to do some edits, you had to do some redrafting, because a lot of people sometimes have the idea that the great poems that we hear, whether on stage, in person, or we see it online, or we just read it, how they might think it's just, you know, one take. Like, we're not like rappers, move one take, done. Poetry ain't always like that. Some of the greatest pieces that you hear take time, take 5, 10, maybe 15 edits. Might have to give it to a couple of people who have a little bit more experience to really fine tune the poem. It's like when you're writing a book. All right, and you got an editor, or you have an editor for a magazine or newspaper. There's always an editing stage, because the editing is the fine tuning of it. And while you don't want to get your truth lost in all of it, it's ways to carve out the diamond within.
Exactly. So, yeah. You know,
I love that. I love Dear Masculinity.
You said what?
I love Dear Masculinity. You got some fire in here, fam. I do.
Once again, not to toot my own horn, but toot
it. This interview is for you to toot it. They'll know you humble later. Toot it. Toot it. You can toot it. It's me, fam. Toot your horn. Go off, King. Go off, Black King.
Yeah, you know, a lot of those poems are actually unedited. I wanted, for the most part, to just be me, since it was my first book. You know, I wanted I wanted to have that feeling of I did this on my own for the most part. Mm-hmm. Now, as I said, some of those poems in there have been through edits by other people, but for the majority of those poems, I did all the edits. I did all the work on them. You can tell I did all the edits and you can tell what time I did the edits because there are some mistakes in that book.
That's okay.
There's a few misspellings on accident, but hey, you get the message.
It'd be like that. It
really do.
It'd be like that. I know, like you said, I said Dear Masculinity. You said the American flag speaks to the black boy. Again, I was there for that, so I really love that one. But before we get to that poem, I want to talk about the poem Libraries. I love Libraries a lot because it gives off the sentiment of fame and money and all these other material and non-material things. None of them mean as much as
right.
knowledge. And it also drives it, to me, it disproves the stereotype that black people, especially black men, are not knowledgeable, that we don't like books, we don't like reading, we don't like gaining new information. So I wanted to ask you, why do you feel knowledge is such a precious thing? Why do you feel like knowledge is power personally for you?
Personally, I think knowledge is power because you can't just go through life not knowing what to do. Mm-hmm. You can't just knowing you're kind of thrown into life on your own. You're thrown into life to just face it, but that's not how it should be. Right. I feel like kids especially aren't being, well, of course, yeah, kids aren't being prepared to enter any other part of their life. They're not being prepared to be independent. There aren't any classes on how to do your taxes, on how to cook, how to change a tire, how to go out and find a job. Those classes don't really exist. Some schools have those classes, but
all should.
Every school should have those classes. Every school should be teaching actual life skills to its students.
Right.
I also think being knowledgeable about what you want to be knowledgeable about, it makes you who you are. If you want to be knowledgeable about 16th and 17th century history, hey, go ahead and be knowledgeable about that. That is what makes you unique. That's what gives you a sense of belonging. It gives you a sense of, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. This is who I am. This is what I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. This is what I know. This is what you can learn from me. I think you should always have something that somebody can learn from you. There shouldn't be anything that, people will come up to you and you can't teach them anything. You should be able to teach everybody something.
I agree. Definitely that. With it's like what's that? The Uncle Ben quote: "With great power comes great responsibility." And when you have that knowledge, you now have a responsibility to reach one and teach one. That's a sentiment I live by. Reach one, teach one, and pull people up and share that knowledge. So that way, an entire community can have that knowledge and then pass it down. So I definitely agree with you on that. To my next one, probably my favorite piece, again, because I was there for it. The American flag speaks to the black boy. When I tell y'all that this poem was a masterpiece and it was even more fulfilling to see it all created. and to see where it started and where it ended up. Zay, I want you to talk about what is the message behind that piece, and what does it personally mean to you?
So the message of the American flag speaks to the Black boy is the American flag, obviously America. Mm-hmm. More specifically, white Americans are just telling the Black boy, not necessarily the Black boy, but Black people in general, but how Black boy, because I am a Black boy. The white Americans telling Black people who they are and their exact placement in their eyes. You know, it's no matter what people will try to tell you, people will try to tell you that racism doesn't exist. There's no such thing as white supremacy or white privilege.
Idiots.
And right. And they say that, and then time after time after time and after time again, America shows us otherwise. America shows us that we are at the bottom, and that us trying to change where we are is only going to lead them to strike back with anger, to try and remind us of where they want us to be. So that was the message of the poem. And to me, I don't have thankfully, as many experiences with racism and with white supremacy as other people, but it's still something that plagues my life, even though I haven't been affected by it all the time. You know, it's still something that I have to think about, I have to worry about. Yeah.
That poem, it really speaks to, even though we wrote it last year and it's applied to, many years before, it still applies even to today, right? I know recently you and Iyami, who was also on the WBO team last year, y'all were at the protests, right?
Yeah.
What was, when you went there that day, what did you witness for yourself firsthand? What was the emotions that were going through you at the time?
Keep it a buck with you. I went there. I wasn't even planning to go to the protest. There wasn't even a protest planned that day. But I guess protests broke out because we weren't allowed. For some reason, we weren't allowed to be on Black Lives Matter Plaza, formerly Freedom Plaza. I don't know why, but for some reason we were just being blocked off from the street. And I met up with Akira and another friend there, and I sat down with them in the front. And it was really interesting. I think all protests are beautiful in a way. It's so much passion in a protest. It's so much emotion behind the people. You really see. I think that the true side of people comes out at protests and at things like that. You see who they really are. You see how they feel about certain things and how they express that. There's people expressing it in all types of different ways. There, of course, people yelling in anger. There were people chanting. There are people out there burning sage. There's people just all different types of expression. If you're like me, you like to verbally abuse the front line. You like to crack jokes. I made 2 officers smile that day. I felt really good about myself.
What did you say? That made them smile.
It was 2 black male officers who looked to be pretty young. They were strapping young lads, you know. So I was like, "Hey, yo, you probably pulling all the legs over there, yeah, bro." You know, I really made them feel good about themselves, you know. But they're not, you know. Of course, they're not supposed to smile. So you know, as soon as that smile came up, they put on the mask and you know, try not to make eye contact with me because I'm a funny guy. But yeah, it's such a good community to protest. You know, people out there passing out waters, passing out snacks, passing out shirts, Black Lives Matter shirts, Black Lives Matter hats. There are people passing out face masks, goggles in case it turned into a riot. So that's another reason why I think protests are really beautiful. It shows how unified people can be.
I like that. What we're seeing across not just here in the DMV area, but around the entire country and even the world is people who are fed up, right? Like we've been fed up, and
right.
People will assume that all this is just because of the George Floyd case. It is because of that is true, but it's also everything else that has happened prior and everything that still continues to happen after that case, right? It's for the case of George Floyd. It's for the cases of Sandra Bland. It's for the cases of Breonna Taylor, for the case of Elijah McClain, for Tony McDade. The list goes on and on. Some we know and a lot we don't know.
The list goes back decades, honestly. You know, it goes to Emmett Till. It goes to George Stinney. It goes far. Black people have been mistreated in America since they were brought here. You know, it's never ended. It's never there hasn't been any breaks in it. It's not new. It's not like it ended once we became free and then all of a sudden, now white people are mad at us again. You know, it's not that. We were constantly hunted and taken advantage of after slavery was over. Jails as they exist today were made to imprison Black people. It became the United States made up a ridiculous amount of laws that would just put Black people into prisons just to get them back to work. Because as the 13th Amendment says, I don't know exactly what it says, but I'm a paraphrase. The 13th Amendment ended slavery unless you were guilty of a crime, which you were sent to jail and then you would work in the field again. Right. So slavery and the mistreatment of Black people has never ended. It just got rebranded, repackaged, reformed. That's all the prison system is. That's all mass incarceration is. Mass incarceration is just slave patrols calling it something different.
I was going to say it was a picture of the original badge of slave patrol, and they had
the original badge.
A current badge of police. I forgot which department it was today.
The most famous, you know, the most famous badge like design. Like you see that badge in every TV, in every like TV show, every Western, in every cartoon of a police officer. They always have that star badge.
Right.
It's the most famous badge because of how early it was used. Mm-hmm. Some police departments still use that same design today. You know, wearing a literal slave catcher's badge.
Mm. It's very true. Like you're saying, it is slavery is nothing more. It's been reformed, it's been repackaged, and it's just been altered to look slightly different, but essentially still does the exact same thing, because when you get into the prison system, you're no longer able to vote. You no longer have a lot of your rights that you would have if you were not in prison. So that is definitely true. We're seeing now where we're not just tackling police brutality, right? That seems to be the forefront thing we're tackling, but it's everything else. It's the misrepresentation in media. It's the racist branding like Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben's and other things of that sort. And it's sad to say that while we're still dealing with this, we still have problems of our own. Recently, there was a shooting on July 4th in East DC of an 11-year-old by the name of Devon McNeil. And I know this hit home harder for you than probably a lot of people because you're from the area, right? That is an area that you know well. You grew up there. You're very familiar with. So I just want you, if you can, speak to that whole situation if you have anything to say.
I've spoken about the situation a few times to different people. Like I said, at the protest, I saw how unified we were. I saw how together we came, you know, and I actually felt pride in my city. You know, that's not something you can say too often about DC. It's not something you can say with your whole chest, you know.
Yes.
There's a lot of violence in DC, a lot of corruption in DC. But for the first time in 19 years at those protests, I was proud to be from DC. And then 4th of July hits, and I hear that Devon McNeil, right?
Right.
Devon McNeil was shot and killed, and I found out he was 11. And I instantly lost all the respect and all the pride I had for DC. I lost it all because here we are yelling in the faces of police officers, hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, stop killing us. And yet, once we leave that protest, once we leave the people that we were just locking arms with, we go back to our neighborhoods and we shoot at each other. It never makes sense, especially with what happened a few weeks before this, where a Black man was found hanging from a tree in the northern area of DC. It's like because first of all, people are gonna try and rule that a suicide. Let me say this: no Black person, if they are going to commit suicide, is going to hang themselves from a tree. No Black person is going to lynch themselves.
And that means are a fool to think so, to think that's what we would do.
Exactly. That means somebody who obviously is not Black hung him there to portray a message, because they could have killed him any other way, but you hung him. That's symbolic. That's you can't just hang someone and just mean, oh yeah, I just wanted him dead specifically. You know, that's a message to all Black people, not just in DC, but Black people as a whole. You see that, but that's not enough to make you want to change, to make you want to stop killing people who could be your brother, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, your mother, your father. You know, these people that look just like you, you're going out and you're killing them, you're shooting at them, you're aiming your guns at them. When it's these other races, when it's these other races, because it's not just white people. Other people of color will try to make it so that it's not them, that it's just white people. But other people of color don't like us as well. You know, we're not gonna act like Abuelo and Abuela are not at the kitchen, are not at the dinner table calling me and my friends nigger. We're not gonna act like I don't walk into Yums and the person behind the counter from China is looking at me like I'm disgusting. You know, we have all these people, including white people, all these people who look at us as the enemy, even though we are the most supportive race in the world. There's no one who fights for people harder than Black people. Black people fight for trans lives. We fight for LGBTQ lives. We fight for Hispanic lives. We're fighting to shut down ICE, to get children out of those detention camps. Or fighting for justice for the Middle East. But no one is going hard for Black people like Black people is going hard for everybody else. And then with all these other races against us, we have Black people shooting and turning their guns to Black people like we're the enemy, when we are our only true allies. We are our only true supporters. You know, we have white allies, we have Hispanic allies, we have Asian allies, we have people from other races that want justice to be served, that want equality and equity. We have that, but no one is doing it like Black people are doing it. No one's going hard for us. And so for us to not go hard for our own is ridiculous to me. Right. It's ridiculous that we're still killing each other. We're still polluting our neighborhoods with illegal drugs. You know, it's ridiculous at this point. It's laughable at this point. It's like, when are these people going to learn? You know?
I think the crazy thing is, like, we do this, and to me, it stems all from the anti-Blackness that exists in some of us, not being able to see someone who looks just like you, who comes from the same area as you, who is your brother, who has melanin just like you, not seeing the value of a Black life And that has been embedded in us so much that we now lash out on our own. And that, me and you were joking, was saying earlier about how all Black people need therapy, right? Like regardless of the status, regardless of light skin, brown skin, if you are Black, you need therapy because there is generational trauma and generational anti-Blackness that continues to be passed down, and it's not addressed properly. And so with it not being addressed properly, you see people who look like you, and then you hate them because you hate yourself, right? You see them in you, and that's a disgusting fact to you. And the fact that it's disgusting to you is such a problem. And it's not everyone, but it's a lot of people who continue to hold such hatred, and that's a real hindrance. We can continue to move and progress, but until we fix inside the house, until we fix the structure, the foundation of the house can only be built until a certain point. It starts to fall because that foundation, that structure wasn't what it should have been.
Right. And it's always funny because whenever the house does